I loved the Godzilla Monsters game released for the NES in 1988. I had gotten it as a little kid and played it 24/7. I never managed to get to Neptune or anything. I only got like halfway through Uranus before I just didn't have any interest in it anymore. I sold the game for Contra in 2009, which now, thinking about it 4 years later, I regret a lot. Even though Contra is one of the best NES games in my opinion, you walk around as a hero character of sorts. It's a platformer-style game. You shoot enemies that are everywhere and collect power-ups, like rapid fire, shotgun, and my favorite of all, machine gun. But you probably came here for the, malevolent, to say the least, experience I had with a Godzilla Monsters. So I'll start off with, well, how I got the cartridge in the first place. I had a local thrift shop in my town. It was rumored that they had old 80s to 90s game cartridges, and the best part was that they were in perfect condition, too. It was also said that they had vintage dinosaur toys, too. They even had the old Jurassic Park toys as well, and even vintage Barbie dolls, but of course I hated girly shit. I went there around 10:24 p.m. The second I walked in, I could see that the rumors were true. They had everything as advertised. Old Jurassic Park toys, vintage children's toys, you name it. And, the vintage Barbie toys. I immediately started looking for the NES games, as I knew that if they had cartridges that didn't even exist anymore, there was a huge probability that they had a Godzilla Monsters. Then, I found the aisle. I looked around like a little kid at a Target, looking for a new toy that they saw on TV and wanted extremely badly. Then, I saw it. A perfect Godzilla Monsters cartridge. It had no scratches or visible damages that I could see. I immediately grabbed that, the original Super Mario Bros., and another game called Duck Hunt, as I had the Nintendo guns at home, but I never had the game that they went to, so I had looked it up and saw that it was Duck Hunt, which I didn't have, to my disappointment. I went to the cashier and bought my new treasures, which only costed $18.07 altogether. I would definitely be going back to that thrift shop again. When I got home, I immediately took out Contra from my NES and loaded Godzilla Monsters. I recoiled when I saw that, strangely, instead of Godzilla Monsters, it said LOCUST. The hell? I thought upon immediately seeing it. The music was also not the original 8-bit rendition of Godzilla's theme either. It was sort of like a heavy bass and drums type beat. I don't know exactly how to describe it other than that. I figured, fuck it, so I pressed play anyways. It immediately skipped the original declaration of war cutscene and took me straight to Earth. The board was the exact same as the original release, but it had 3 Godzilla characters on my board to play as, and no Mothra, which was the weirdest part yet. I found out by selecting each of them that their names were Big Bro, Mid Bro, and Lil Bro. So are these 3 Godzillas siblings or something? I thought, as I shook my head with a face a toddler would give you after yelling at them. I figured that this could be one of a kind, too, as before I did any levels, I scoured the internet for the supposed LOCUST NES game. I couldn't find anything. As I write this, I now know that this should have been enough for me to just return the damn game and get a new cartridge after what's happened with it. I immediately shrugged my shoulders after finding absolutely nothing about this game anywhere and just proceeded with my first level. I selected Big Bro because he looked to be the strongest of them all. His sprite was actually just like Godzilla, except he was dark. He was a dark, almost blackish purple color, and his dorsal fins were also orange instead of teal. He could do a stomp attack which sent enemy tanks flying high up into the air, which exploded upon impact with the ground after they fell. He could also shoot an orange beam instead of the regular light blue one from the real game. It also appeared to be stronger than Godzilla's as well, being able to one-tap up to 4 of those annoying turrets that poked out of the buildings as you continue through the levels. Oh, and I forgot to mention something else about the board. Instead of Gazora and Mogura, the bosses were a strange octopus-looking kaiju which sort of looked similar to Gazora, but not quite, called Octo. Very creative, definitely, I thought. And a giant, almost lobster-looking kaiju, like a mix between Mogura and Ibara, if that makes sense, dubbed Claw. Next I played a level as Mid-Bro. He was actually the colors you would expect Godzilla to be in his movies. Well, sort of, in a way. Cool gray / blue-gray for the base, and a sort of light mint color or watered-down ice green color for the dorsal fins, with a little light gray center in each of them. He could do everything that Godzilla in the original game could, but his atomic breath attack was a different color, white. He was basically like if Godzilla 1954/55 was added to the NES game. Anyways, an attack that was exclusive to him was a Maw attack. He would crunch his abdomen forward as he struck at enemies with his jaws in a biting formation when I pressed the down arrow and B button at the same time twice in a row. I got this from spamming different button combos. It did tremendous damage to enemies, which I was happy about. I then selected Lil Bro, and when I loaded into a level, I noticed that he was a pure mint color. His dorsal fins and eyes were red, and so was his beam. His beam was relatively weak compared to Big Bro and Mid Bro. Lil Bro as a whole was weak. It made sense, I guess. He was the smallest and, well, Lil Bro. He also had an exclusive attack. Well, it wasn't necessarily an attack. More like a health power-up that you could use 42 times. Underneath the level text at the top right-hand corner of the screen was an 8-bit banana with an X, followed by the number 42, meaning there was 42 of these bananas that I could use. I didn't know how to use it, so like I did with Big Bro and Mid Bro, I just spammed different button combinations. Then I figured out that all you need to do was press for all 4 arrows and both the B and A buttons at the same time. I was so desperate to find the combination that I accidentally did this 3 times, and I was left with only 39 bananas. During the struggle, I had 2 of my health bars drained, so I found out that 1 banana will return 1 health bar. Upon actually using a banana power-up, an animation played similar to the Maw attack of Bin Bro, although Lil Bro didn't crunch his abdomen as far forward, and a banana spawned in front of his face, which then exploded into several little light yellow pixels upon collision with it. Seeing Lil Bro consume these bananas made me hungry myself, so I paused the game and whipped up some banana bread before throwing it into the oven to have as a snack as I played this perhaps unreleased Nintendo game. I went back to play through some more levels while I waited for it to bake, only to see that Lil Bro was literally dying. And I mean that he was losing 1/4 of his health bars every second, as his hurt animation would play each time. Speaking of hurt animation, each time the brothers would get damaged, the usual hurt animation would play, and the sprite would flash red for half a second before returning back to normal, unlike the original. At first I didn't know what the hell was going on, so I quickly unpaused the game and tried to spam the bananas. I did this like 5 times to try and keep up with the damage loss as I tried to haul ass out of the level, smashing through things as quickly as they came at me, but my power meter was being slayed, and each time I ate a banana, he kept losing 1/4 of a bar, seemingly quicker and quicker. I then just exited back to the board screen, where I figured it was probably most likely just a glitch. I made sure from that point on to never leave my game running for more than 2 minutes while idle, or in the pause screen for that matter. I then started the level again, and I was pretty pissed that a glitch ruined my progress in it. Whatever, I supposed. So I continued on. I beat the level with no issues this time. Surprisingly, I sort of attached to Lil Bro. Like, even though he was basically just Mothra reincarnated as a smaller Godzilla, I seemed to have sort of mentally attached to the little guy, as if he was my own brother. I got to Octo, and I chose Big Bro as he was the most fit for the job. I hauled ass through the side-scrolling segment as I was pretty excited to see this boss, and I got to the boss within probably 30 seconds. Unlike the original, an actual 40-second timer was at the top of the screen, and this level was actually an underwater level. Cool, I thought. I thought Big Bro's swimming animation was actually pretty neat, and he would go up and down as well. Meanwhile, Octo was at the ocean floor the entire time, almost. Sometimes he did get up with his own swimming animation, which was just like an octopus in real life, and he would bash Big Bro with his tentacles. Then whenever I dealt 4 bars, Octo would perch back onto the floor and squirt ink all over the screen, turning everything black besides the health bar, power meter, and the other text at the top black for about 5 seconds. And I could see that every half a second, The Godzilla's health bar would go down by half a bar. It was pretty tricky, and then after one well-aimed beam, I defeated the slimy kaiju. Then I went back to the board, and I selected Midbro again, and I used him for Claw. After the usual slash, kick, bite, repeat of the side-scroller, I got to the boss room. Claw was interesting, to say the least. He could punch Midbro with his claw, tip first, and if he missed, he would launch himself forward in that same pose, legs spread apart, right arm behind him, and his left claw out like a bayonet. At light speed, seemingly, too. That did tremendous damage to Midbro, to the point where I was only at 2 bars. He could also spin around like one of those old Top Toys, and he would clash with one side of the screen, only to bounce back and clash with the other side. It was just like Boom Boom from Super Mario 3. I then finished him off with my Maw attack. Then it was on to the next world, Mars. Just kidding. Astakos was the next world the game put me at.